Good morning and welcome. This is the third and final episode of Next Generation Asset Insight and Shipment Tracking. Welcome. So this webinar is being recorded. Your sound has been muted. Please enter any questions you might have in the chat, and I encourage you to open the chat. We have actually posted a couple of questions for you to ponder about that you may find interesting and maybe could generate some questions of your own. And at the end of the seminar or webinar, we will be sending you an email with links to all three episodes. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Patrick Verdugo. I am the Director of IoT Product Management for Claro Enterprise Solutions in the United States of America. Martin?
My name is Martin. I'm working as Senior Digital Business Consultant for A1 Digital. I am based in Vienna in Europe, and we are the IoT vehicle in the A1 Telecom group and then also in America Mobile. This is also how the cooperation between A1 Digital and Claro comes into place.
We are sister companies under the same umbrella.
So let's kick it off. About last week, like already mentioned by Patrick, we had already 2 episodes last week and the week before. The 2 episodes were about the asset management module and also the shipment tracking module. You can find also the links then afterwards. We will post a mail to you so you can see also the recordings in case you have missed it. Today, the focus will be in the 3rd episode on the technology behind Asset Insight, how we are doing this to provide such solutions, what is important, and we will also have a live demo, so you will be able to see the system also, how it works, how it looks like, how you can navigate through it, and so on and so forth. So let's kick it off where we have started actually. This is the solution overview again. So as you know, when you have also visited the last sessions, we're having a complete solution. So we are offering tracking and monitoring 24/7. We are collecting different data of the devices, of the assets. We are providing access for you and your colleagues, also for your customers, and you have different rules and reports, what we will show you later on. In the first part, we want to focus really on the solution itself. And to narrow it down on the solution itself, you have basically 3 major components. It's the IoT tracking device. Second thing is the A1 Digital connectivity. It's actually a multi-carrier connectivity throughout various countries. And we have then the Asset Insight platform. This is one central platform. It's cloud-based and it's collecting all the data of your assets.
I would like to add that, remember, the solution provides 2 very significant modules that basically leverage this technology. One is asset tracking, valuable asset tracking, and the other one, which has some additional capabilities, the other module is shipment tracking.
In this solution, everything looks quite simple. It is quite simple, but to give you a bit more of a deep dive, what we are doing in behind, I will show you on the next slide. So as you can see, we have an expandable solution. We have different modules in it, but let's do it step by step. So let's start at the bottom. As you can see, we have different kinds and different sorts of trackers. There are bigger ones, there are smaller ones, they have different characteristics. So some of them have more certifications, some of them have less, some of them have more battery space, more battery power, some of them have less. Also the dimensions are a bit different and so on and so forth. And what we are doing here is, as you can see, we are using one central device management layer, which means the complete device management, not talking about receiving information only, but also deploying information, configuration updates, security patches, use case updates, deploying this to the trackers with a bulk update functionality. This can be done centrally via the platform. As we know that different trackers are working in different ways, we have then below created so-called device type adapters. A device type adapter is written always for a certain kind of tracker, for a certain brand, for a certain model, for a certain specification. And we can add as many device type adapters as we want. So as you can see, currently in this slide, you see 2 device adapters. By the way, we have much more than 2, but you see it's also expandable. And then it goes to the device management, and then we are collecting the asset data. And of course, also the asset data is completely in the same layer managed, which means at the end of the day, for you as user, it doesn't make any difference if it's the red tracker, the black tracker, or the white tracker on this slide. All your asset data will be shown in a similar way, will be shown in the same web user interface, and you can use it in a similar way and in the same way, actually. And based on this asset data, we have then developed different modules. We've presented the features of the modules already in the last 2 weeks, asset tracking and shipment tracking, but there are also some features included like branding, for instance. So also all these features are same for all the tracker types. And then we have a parallel structure between the classical web user interface. This is what you will see today after the intro of the technical stuff. And we have developed our platform with a so-called API-first strategy. The API-first strategy means that each and every parameter, each and every field, everything what you can see in the web user interface is also available via API. And this means, as you can also see here, client enterprise asset management system. If you have already your existing system, you can use our solution as bridge between the asset and between your system, and you can receive all of the information, all of the data, all of the sensor value directly into your system, and this completely automatic.
To add a little bit from what Martin has mentioned at the device type layer, we can track things like rail cars, we can track things like containers, we can track things that are being shipped by ground, whether it's in a truck or on rail, in the by air or by sea. And different trackers have different performance characteristics, as Martin mentioned. The red tracker has higher levels of certification for things that may be dangerous, for example, or that require special ATICS certification. The black trackers are the industrial strength, long battery life, very robust trackers. The white trackers are more portable. They're smaller in terms of the dimensions and weight. However, going back to the platform, all 3 are extensible and all 3 provide the same information from the user's point of view.
So this was basically the first section, the hardware section. The next section, connectivity, is very important. We as A1 Digital, we as Clara Enterprise Solutions have a strong background in mobile connectivity, which means we have the experts and therefore we have a special focus on this. You need to make sure if you want to run such a solution that you're supporting the proper technologies. Your trackers need to support the proper technologies, but at least as important as that is that also the local networks are supporting it. As you can see, we have mainly focused on the IoT technologies. This is narrowband IoT and LTM. Both of these technologies are in the LTE standard, but will be then in the 5G standard as well. In addition to that, we have 2G as a fallback. The reason for that is, if you see also the map here below, some of the countries have already implemented both technologies, narrowband IoT and LTE. Some of them have only one technology. Some of them have not even one technology, neither narrowband nor LTE KDM. So in these countries, we are also able to use our solutions because we are just using 2G as a fallback. And as you know, in nearly every country, you have still 2G coverage. And therefore, we have decided to use such a stable solution based on 3 different mobile network technologies. Of course, we are using fitting SIM cards. By the way, it's not only SIM cards, it's also SIM chips. So they are soldered directly into our trackers. This means they're much more robust when it comes to the operational temperature. They're much more robust when it comes to vibrations. And of course, they are highly secure because you cannot just exchange the SIM card.
I would like to add, just so that, because there is no legend, if you look at the map, countries that have purple have both narrowband IoT and LTE-M. Countries that are purely red only have LTE-M. if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, Martin.
Correct.
Countries in blue only have narrowband IoT, if I'm not mistaken. And the gray countries really fall back to the 2G coverage. So a tracker in the US may be using narrowband IoT or LTE-M. And if that shipment goes from US to Africa, it would default back to 2G. But it would still operate. It would still bring the data to the platform. It would still allow you to have complete and total visibility.
That's correct. And this brings me already to the next point. You mentioned now we have a shipment from the US to Africa. And here it's very important how you select your trackers. We have, for ourselves, identified some tracker selection criteria, which we keep always on top of our list, that we just choose the right trackers for our customers and the high value trackers. So we're looking at the size and at the robustness. So they need to have a certain IP class. They need to be protected against some interference from the outside. Also, the GPS quality is highly important. As I mentioned at the very beginning, there are different trackers on the market with different antenna designs. We tested a lot. We challenged different tracker types, and we saw which of the trackers are working properly, and we can use them in different environments. Of course, security is a big topic. So all of our trackers are connected in a secure way, according to the mobile network standards, but also according to the IoT platform standards. And on the right-hand side, the power efficiency, especially at trackers which are not at a fixed power supply, it's very important that the firmware is done in a way that it's not consuming and draining too much power, because we have customers, they expect battery lifetimes of at least 6 years or even longer. And this is what we can fulfill with our trackers. Of course, it's important also to have the local certifications. In Europe, it's the CE. In the US, it's the FCC certification. In other markets, it's different certifications. So we make sure that all these certifications are met. And of course, on the left-hand side, you can see it needs to be a simple installation, and you need to be able to manage your devices. This is what we also mentioned prior at the device management. So you need to be able to update all your trackers over the air without any need of going on site, because typically the trackers are all over the world, so you cannot go on site, right?
An important point is certification. Things like, are they compliant with IP67, IP66, IP69? Are they dust-proof? Are they waterproof? In other words, they have to comply with certain certifications. And in the case of very dangerous shipments, they have to have even more stringent certifications. We're going to look at the over-the-air management in further detail when we look at the platform. One of the things that I'd like to highlight is the fact that the color on these different icons here really doesn't have any meaning. We just wanted to sort of differentiate them. That doesn't make, for example, size and robustness more important than simple installation or over-the-air management. And last but not least, it's very important to also understand that we provide sensor extensibility. As an example, one of our customers ships gas in these containers. They're called totes, and they wanted to be able to measure pressure. So we could add a pressure sensor and use our tracker as a gateway to bring that information back to the platform.
So, and as a next step, we will now go directly into the platform. Patrick, therefore, I will hand over the screen to you.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this is our...
You can see your desktop.
Oh, you don't see the right screen, do you? My apologies. I must have clicked on the wrong image. So one moment, please. Thank you very much. Hopefully now you'll see the correct one.
Yes, here we are.
Thank you. I apologize. So here is the entry to the portal. This is available 24/7. It is highly available. It is highly scalable. It has all of the qualities of service to be able to supply and support tens of thousands of trackers concurrently. In fact, we have, as an example, over 20,000 rail cars just in Europe. So I'm going to log into the platform, and I'm going to show you essentially that one of the first things that you can do is visualize where your assets are. This is a test system I'm showing for demo purposes. I only have 4 assets, so 5 assets, excuse me, currently assigned to me so that I can do these demos. And you can see that we have 4 in the United States and 1 in Germany. Now you can click on an asset and get the information, date and time, the nearest street address, the latitude, the longitude, and depending on the asset, the temperature, as well as the battery, depending on how it's configured. I'm going to zoom into the US. I live in the Tampa Bay area. In Tampa, Florida, I have 3 assets in my possession. And let me go back to the high-level view and show you. And again, apologies for bouncing around, but you know how it is when you do demos. I can show you that there's 3 assets. I have 2 assets here. I can click on any of the assets and get the nearest street address, the temperature in this particular case, the latitude, the longitude, and the battery percent. So when you bring the platform to production, one of the things you can do is upload the devices and then define your assets. You can also upload your assets and then basically assign devices to assets, devices being the trackers. So I'll show you one of my test units. It happens to be in the back of my car, which looks like that. That's not actually my car, but it looks very much like that. What you have here is the ability to name your asset, define your asset type. If you have some sort of inventory control number, you can register that. Manufacturer and brand, model, serial number. You have a user field that can be used to show whether it's in use or whether it's sitting in the warehouse, hasn't been deployed yet. This is a user field. If it's a vehicle, the ability to register the VIN number and the year of manufacture. Every asset has behavior. Every asset has a tracker that has a predefined behavior. So what we see here is an asset use case default. This is our default. This is how the tracker in my vehicle is currently configured. And what you'll see here are some parameters that basically govern that behavior. And what's important here is the fact that we can sense motion. So we can set an interval for actually reporting location based on the asset being in motion. We can also set a default for based on the asset being stationary. So if my vehicle is parked and not moving, I simply report its location once per day. However, if I start driving, I report location every 15 minutes. Now, I want you to also note, not only can I govern the frequency of reporting based on motion or being stationary, I can also configure the reporting interval. That means when the device connects to the platform, uses the cellular network, and sends the reported location intervals. Now, in my case, I have them configured the same. So every 15 minutes when I'm driving, every 15 minutes, I report location. However, let's think about how this could be useful. I could be taking readings every 15 minutes, but only connect to the platform once an hour. And by doing that, I'm going to maximize battery life. I'm going to reduce battery life. By reducing, I'm going to, save battery life. I'm going to extend battery life. So you can make these different. Again, that's something that you would carefully look at and configure at the time of deployment. This can be changed through the platform, and it will send an update to the tracker, changing its behavior. One of the other things is that we can set movement sensitivity, stop duration, shock value. Shock value is of particular importance. We have customers that ship architectural glass. Also, that's the glass that you see on the outside of high-rise buildings, as an example. They also ship glass that goes for the solar panels, industrial solar panels. They ship gases and other things. And sometimes shock can be a very significant measurement because glass becomes brittle if exposed to very severe shock. And when you transport glass, in particular on rail or on trucks, you have to be, a pothole can cause problems for the glass that's being transported. This is just an example. This again is a parameter that you can set and you can modify. What you see here is the current position. This is my current position, latitude, longitude, date and time, and then underneath when the device was actually implemented. What I'd like to also share is the fact that we do collect telematic information in real time, as well as for historical purposes. So if I go here and change the reporting interval and go back, let's say, to the beginning of last month, or maybe the beginning of July, and apply that as the time range, we are now going to see a substantially bigger number of readings. And there's all the telematics from that date range from July the 1st until today. Every one of these dots represents a point at which the device essentially reported GPS location in based on the configuration. Of course, you can zoom in on this, and you can also change this to satellite maps if you so desire. Some people prefer that. Some people prefer standard maps. And we also have rail maps because we support rail as a potential solution for customers. Here you see every single event: motion started, motion stopped, a life sign. Our devices do a heartbeat periodically to indicate that they're alive and operating, and that's configured as well in the firmware. So you see all of the detail. And then what we can see in addition to that is the battery level. I don't have a voltage sensor, so you won't see any voltage, but here I have battery level, and here I have temperature. Now think about a shipment. If I have a shipment of goods that are sensitive to temperature, like pharmaceuticals, like frozen foods or refrigerated foods, and I want to know they haven't been exposed to severe temperature, this can become extremely valuable from a cold chain tracking perspective. Also note, our devices are depending on the model of the device, they are fully rechargeable. And because I use this for demos a lot, when it gets down to a certain level, it generates an alert, and I bring it in the house and I plug it in, and then I start over from 100%. So that's a little bit of a preview of the capabilities of the asset. In terms of the devices, I will show you here the device that's sitting in the back of my vehicle. This is think of this as about the size of an iPhone, but a little bit small iPhone, except it's a lot thicker. As you can see, it is rechargeable. It can be mounted with screws. It can be mounted with magnets, and typically on a container, it's mounted between the ridges of the container using a magnetic mount. This is a solid recharge model. We have solar-powered models and several other types of models. And this is where the information is kept. This tells me the device is communicating and provisioned, and there's more information that can be derived from here. The next important thing is the fact that you can set rules. And rules, what they do is they essentially provide you with alerts. If it's a shipment, I want to get visibility on shipment location. If it's an asset, maybe I want to geofence an asset. Not just rely on the fact that I'm going to sense when it gets moved, but actually get an alert if it leaves a certain area. So I'm going to move to the alerts area, to the areas, individual areas, and show you. For example, this is our headquarters in Miramar, Florida, so that I can set an alert when a tracker enters this area or exits this area. I have another one set for my home office. I have another one set for our headquarters in Vienna. So even international shipments, in fact, when the trackers were sent to me, I got an alert when it left the headquarters, when it left the country, when it entered the continental United States, when it arrived at our office in Miramar, Florida, and when it was shipped and arrived in my home office. So you can use these to geofence your assets using this facility. Once you define a rule, I'll show you an example of a rule. I have a rule here that says when a tracker enters my home office, which is a rule triggered by an area based on an operator called entering, I get an email alert, which you can, of course, configure to say whatever you want to say. And you can include things like resource type, asset name, area name, what was the event that caused the alert, and the date and time of the alert. So that's an example of using areas and rules. When you do shipments, the system will generate automatic alerts based on configuration. So for example, I want to alert my customer via a push notification message that their shipment is 10 miles away. And when they click on that push notification, they'll see it on a map. We obviously support all types of different user profiles with different security settings. And last but not least, I want to show very quickly a couple of different things. From a general perspective, we have the ability to set the units of measure for a customer. I want it in Celsius, I want it in Kelvin, I want it in Fahrenheit if I'm monitoring temperature. I want distance in meters, kilometers, or miles. I want to use US date format, European date format, 12-hour format, 24-hour format. This allows you to configure the platform for your needs. You can create email.
Maybe one quick thing to add here, Patrick.
Yes,
we identified also when it comes to international projects that this is quite important that all of the users around the world can use it. Because typically if you're introducing such a system only in one time zone or in one area, then it's always easy to customize like that. But if you have users in different time zones, if you have users with different, like in Europe, we are using Celsius, in the US, Fahrenheit is used. So you can configure like ever you want it. And so you can collaborate within this system, no matter which preferences you actually have.
Thank you, Martin. At the user level, that's the important point. So I would have it in Fahrenheit and miles. Martin would have it in Celsius and kilometers, as an example, for the same shipment, for the same tracker, for the same asset, right? The second thing is you can create email templates. So if you're doing shipments, orders, trackers, destination addresses, and so on, there's many variables you can include. The third thing, and very important, is the fact that we have a comprehensive set of APIs. I'm just going to show quickly the fact that the APIs are documented in the platform. So it's very easy. If you want to use an API, you can simply go, okay, I'm interested in pulling from Asset Insight the location of my assets and bring them into my own platform, my ERP system, some sort of operational system, maybe a route management system, whatever the case is. You simply click on the API. It shows you the necessary parameters. It shows you examples of those parameters. It shows you an example of what the schema looks like. It also provides examples of what the output looks like. So API integration becomes a very, very easy thing to do using the platform. And last but not least, if you have the need, you can use the custom design to put the logo, your logo, on the portal and to configure some other things that make it personalized. And this is a nice feature that to have. So at this point, I think we would like to check and see if we have any questions in the chat.
Yeah, actually, we had two questions in the chat. They were already answered by me in the meantime. But we will read it out loud as well. So the first one is, are we able to add own trackers to the system? The answer is yes. It's possible to include customized trackers. It's also possible to include the trackers which you have available already in your company. Basically, this is what we explained earlier. We can build and create another device type adapter, and then you can add also own sensors. And the second question, which I could see in the chat, is, can the system be extended to add additional sensors? Also here we can answer with yes, this is possible as well. So we can basically easily add another trackers with these sensors, or even have, for instance, this option which Patrick mentioned, that you have external sensors and you combine them with an existing tracker. We did one project recently where we had the requirement of having an opening sensor for a shipment, that they know if the box was opened or if the box is closed and where the box has been opened. So we attached the opening sensor and the contact, a magnet contact, to the box, and the tracker has reported then also this information, or is constantly reporting actually, and is showing it in the platform.
I'd like to quickly add that these trackers have been selected. We've worked with many manufacturers, and these trackers have been selected and have a multitude of functions. So just at a high level, they support two different GPS standards. So they have GPS, obviously, receivers. They have a cellular capability, as we mentioned. We have LTE-M, narrowband IoT, 2G. So we have at least 3 different radios in there. We have an eSIM that can be modified from the platform. For example, if I'm going to operate within the US, this will be a multi-carrier profile. I can go from an AT&T connection to a T-Mobile connection to a Verizon connection seamlessly. So if there's a dominant carrier in a certain area that has the best signal strength, we're going to leverage and take advantage of that. If we're going to send this from the United States to Africa, and in Africa we have a particular carrier in Zimbabwe, the eSIM will be enabled to operate on that carrier. So again, we have the flexibility of programming the eSIM to provide the support regardless of the geographic location in which it will operate. In addition to that, this has Bluetooth in it, Bluetooth radio. So yes, I can take a Bluetooth pressure sensor and connect it and pass that data onto the platform. I can take an external temperature sensor, maybe a special sensor, a movement sensor, and so on. And in addition to that, the device contains accelerometers, X, Y, and Z axis to measure movement, to measure shock, and to detect whether it's standing still or not. And last but not least, very important, very, very sophisticated firmware, which puts the device into hibernation mode when it's not being reported, when it doesn't need to report. It basically goes into a deep sleep mode to preserve battery. So our battery life is unequaled. We have tremendous battery life as compared to other devices in the marketplace. Any other questions pop up in the chat?
I have checked in parallel, but all the questions were answered so far.
Okay, so we want to thank everyone for participating. We will follow up with a mailing that will include the links, and would like to highlight for a moment that we have a trial offer for any customer that wants to try or test our platform. We will provide 2 trackers, including multi-carrier connectivity, of course, with full access to the platform, including setup, support, and training. And I'd like to take a moment just to highlight, we provide 24/7 support, multilingual. And of course, this is a very special offer for $199 for 3 months. You can use 2 trackers, the platform, and obviously track your assets, track your shipments. If you like it, keep it, sign a contract, move forward. If you don't like it, pack them up and return them. So with that said, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for participating today. I think it's very much appreciated. And if you have any questions, reach out to us if you would, please. Thank you.
Thanks so much.